Tonight, as you settle into a place of rest, I invite you into a gentle exploration of one of the most universal experiences in human life: humor, laughter, the warm release that rises through the body like a soft ripple of joy. Before we begin, allow yourself to rest a little deeper into the moment. Let your breath slow down, let your mind soften, and let the rhythm of this story guide you gradually into ease. As you rest here, a quiet question settles into the space between us. Why do humans laugh? What is this strange and beautiful reflex that shakes the chest, brightens the face, and connects one person to another in a way that is older than memory? What does humor reveal about the mind, about consciousness, about how we interpret the world? Imagine for a moment a time long before language took recognizable shape, before stories were carved into stone or painted across walls, before tools were refined and cultures took form. Picture a small band of early humans gathered around a gentle ancient fire at the edge of a cool night, their breath forming faint clouds in the dark, their eyes shimmering with reflection. And in that early stillness, someone makes an unexpected gesture, a harmless surprise, a small moment of play, and suddenly an ease spreads through the group. A simple sound escapes their bodies, something light, something relieving, a sound of shared safety, the earliest version of human laughter. Long before writing or philosophy, laughter was there. It rose from the body as a signal that danger had passed, that tension could fall away, that companionship was near. Laughter was a way for early humans to say without words, "We are safe together." And over thousands of generations, that simple reflex grew into something layered, emotional, cultural, intellectual, and deeply human. Tonight, we will wander through that evolution with softness and curiosity. We will explore the science of humor and the psychology of laughter. We will move through the ancient roots of comedy, the inner workings of the brain, and the way humor shapes connection, identity, creativity, and resilience. We will follow its path through early civilizations, through human communities across the world, and into the modern forms of comedy that continue to inspire joy. Most of all, this story is here to help you rest. Understanding humor brings more than entertainment. It brings emotional relief. It softens tension. It reconnects us with a lightness that still lives inside us, even on heavy days. It reminds us that laughter is a form of healing, a gentle balancing of the heart, a quiet wisdom carried through time. So settle deeper now. Let your breath fall into a softer rhythm. Let your limbs grow comfortable and warm. And allow this story to unfold slowly, like a long exhale at the end of a long day. You are here, safe and at ease, ready to explore what humor truly is and why laughter matters so deeply. The first laughs. Picture an ancient dusk settling across a broad savanna. A pale gold horizon melts into deepening shades of blue. The air cools as night approaches, and a small human family gathers near a fire that flickers like a heartbeat in the dark. Sparks rise like tiny embers of thought drifting into the sky. This scene, carried across hundreds of thousands of years, is where the first human laughter likely lived. Long before humans understood language in the way we do now, we understood tension and release, fear and safety, danger and calm. Laughter began as a kind of signal, woven deep in the nervous system, a reflex that evolved to tell others, without speech, that a threat had passed. It was nature's soft whisper, a reassurance that the body could relax again. Scientists believe that laughter even predates humanity, reaching back into the lineage we share with other primates. Young chimpanzees laugh when they play, producing breathy, rhythmic sounds during chasing and wrestling. This is not comedy in the way humans know, but the foundation is the same. A joyful response to safe play. A sound that tells others, this is friendly, you can join, you can relax. Early humans inherited this reflex, and over time it grew richer and more meaningful. As their minds expanded, as their social groups grew more complex, laughter evolved from a simple signal into a powerful bonding mechanism. Around the fire, laughter helped create trust. It made dangerous nights feel less frightening. It strengthened ties among individuals who depended on one another for survival. Now imagine that early fire again. Imagine the way shadows danced across the ground, how the warmth of the flames softened the cool air. Someone may have stumbled in a harmless way or mimicked the sound of an animal in a playful attempt to lighten the mood. Someone else might have shared an expressive gesture, a small face made to amuse a child. And then that sound, a soft burst of laughter spreading from one person to another. Laughter in these moments was not entertainment. It was communication older than words. It said, we are together. We share this moment. We share this world. Over thousands of nights, humor grew slowly and quietly, shaped by the rhythms of human life. It developed alongside storytelling, play, and social learning. As humans evolved the ability to imagine, to simulate the thoughts of others, and to recognize patterns, humor became richer. Situations that defied expectations became amusing. Small misunderstandings became the seeds of playful enjoyment. Even then, laughter was more than a reaction. It was a teacher. It taught early humans that life contained moments of lightness, even when existence was difficult. It reminded them that connection is the heart of survival. It helped their bodies release tension at the end of long days. It helped their minds feel courage in a world full of uncertainty. Now, as you listen, let your breath deepen again. Allow the ancient fire to glow gently in your imagination. See the early humans resting together after a long day of movement and effort. Feel the ease that laughter brought them, the way it loosened tight muscles and softened fearful thoughts. That same ease still lives in you. The biology of it never left. Humor is a thread connecting you to every ancestor who ever smiled, who ever felt joy, who ever made another person laugh in the soft glow of a prehistoric night. Let that thought settle as you drift gently onward, ready to explore how the brain turns surprise, pattern, and emotion into the beautiful experience of humor. The first laughs. Picture an ancient dusk settling across a broad savanna as the last light of day melts softly into deepening blue. The air cools with a gentle hush as night approaches, and a small human family gathers near a quiet fire. The flames move with slow and steady breaths, rising and falling like a living heartbeat in the dark. Sparks drift upward, carried by the warm currents into a sky filled with early stars. In this place, in this moment that belongs to a time long before recorded memory, the roots of human laughter begin to take form. Long before language shaped itself into stories and ideas, early humans understood something more primal. They understood tension. They understood fear. They understood the tightness that settles into the body when danger is near. And they understood release. Laughter began as that release, a natural exhale from the nervous system that signaled to the group that the moment of alarm had passed. It was the body's ancient reassurance that safety had returned. Even before humans emerged in their modern form, other primates carried a version of laughter within them. Young chimpanzees make rhythmic, breathy sounds while they play, especially when they are tickled or gently chased. Gorillas do the same. These sounds are not deliberate jokes as humans tell them, but they hold the same ancestral meaning. They say, "This is play, this is safe, this is joy." The foundation of humor stretches far beyond culture and language, deep into the shared biology of social mammals. Now imagine those early humans settling around their fire, their bodies tired from the day's movement, their ears tuned to distant rustles in the tall grass. Someone stumbles lightly in the sand while sitting down. The fall is harmless, surprising, but not threatening. The tension briefly rises, then dissolves all at once. A soft huff of sound escapes one person's chest and then another's, spreading effortlessly through the group. It is laughter, ancient and innocent. It is not a performance. It is not comedy as we understand it today. It is simply relief, carried on breath. Over time, this small reflex became one of the most important tools for social bonding. Laughter taught early humans who they could trust. Those who laughed together were those who felt safe together. It helped strengthen the fragile webs of cooperation that allowed groups to share resources, raise children, and survive long migrations. In a world filled with uncertainty, laughter was a brief and precious moment of shared calm. It may have begun as a signal, but it quickly grew into something more. As early human minds expanded and became capable of imagining what others were thinking, humor began to emerge from the ability to perceive surprise. When one person acted unexpectedly yet harmlessly, others found it amusing. This small spark of amusement grew richer as cognitive abilities evolved. Playful mimicry, exaggerated gestures, and symbolic actions started to create moments that were not just safe, but delightful. Once imagination took hold, humor blossomed. A child might imitate the movement of an animal in a way that looked strange or unexpected. An adult might misunderstand a gesture in a way that made others quietly shake with laughter. Even without structured language, they recognized the pleasure in shared absurdity, in a moment that broke the pattern of the ordinary. The firelight flickered across their faces, revealing the warmth in their expressions. The sound of gentle laughter eased the tension that had built throughout the day. Muscles loosened, breathing slowed, fear softened into something lighter. The early world was full of danger, but in these moments of laughter, humans found a space of refuge inside one another. As generations passed, these small moments shaped the emotional lives of our ancestors. Those who could recognize the difference between a real threat and a harmless surprise were more resilient. Those who could laugh together were more bonded, more cooperative, and more capable of navigating the difficulties of early human life. Laughter offered comfort at the end of long days, guided the young through playful learning, and strengthened the connections that held communities together. Even now, the echoes of that ancient laughter live within every human body. You carry the same reflex that once reassured early humans around their fires, the same gentle release that told the group, "We are here, we are together, we are safe." This deep biological inheritance reminds us that humor is not just an emotion. It is a signal of belonging. It is a pathway to connection. It is a soft light that humans have carried through every era. A quiet warmth that allowed our ancestors to endure cold nights, long journeys, and the constant unfolding of an uncertain world. And through this soft, ancient glow, the story of humor continues to evolve, shaping the very structure of the human mind, the brain of humor. Deep within the quiet architecture of the human brain, humor rises like a subtle light. It is not housed in one single place. It does not emerge from a single spark of thought. Instead, it unfolds through a soft and intricate conversation between many regions, each contributing its own layer of experience. To understand the science of humor is to wander through the pathways of perception, prediction, memory, and emotion, and to watch how the mind transforms a simple moment into laughter. Imagine the brain at rest in the dimness of evening. The world grows softer, the senses settle, the mind drifts into an easy rhythm. In this calm state, the machinery of humor still hums quietly beneath awareness. It waits for patterns, it waits for expectations, it waits for the moment when the familiar meets the unexpected in a way that feels safe. Humor begins when something breaks the anticipated pattern just enough to surprise, yet not enough to threaten. The brain must walk a delicate path between confusion and clarity, between tension and relief. At the center of this process is the prefrontal cortex, the region that supports complex thought, perspective-taking, and prediction. It is here that the mind creates a map of what should happen next, based on past experience. When a situation unfolds in an unexpected way, the prefrontal cortex lights gently with recognition that something unusual has occurred. This moment of noticing begins the experience of humor. It is the spark of incongruity, the subtle dissonance between expectation and reality. Nearby, the temporal lobes contribute layers of memory and meaning. They retrieve images, sounds, and associations that help interpret the event. If the surprise matches a past pattern of harmless amusement, the brain tilts toward humor. If it suggests danger, the brain shifts toward fear. The distinction is subtle, and the brain must make it quickly. Humor depends on this rapid interpretation, this near-instant sorting of the harmless from the harmful. As the unexpected shift settles into clarity, the limbic system awakens. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure tied to emotion, evaluates the emotional tone of the moment. When the amygdala determines that the surprise is gentle and safe, tension dissolves. The mind experiences a shift from alertness to ease. This emotional transition is one of the oldest parts of humor's evolution, the same process that allowed early humans to signal that a threat had passed. Once the amygdala releases its grip, the nucleus accumbens begins to glow softly with pleasure. This region plays a central role in reward and joy. It releases dopamine, a chemical that brings feelings of lightness, satisfaction, and warmth. This small release is one of the reasons laughter feels so soothing. The entire body experiences the relief. Muscles soften, breath deepens, the chest opens, the face relaxes. Humor becomes not just a thought, but a physical comfort. As all these regions synchronize, the motor areas of the brain activate. They control the rhythmic contractions of the diaphragm and vocal cords that create the sound of laughter. Even the smallest laugh involves precise coordination between brain and body, balancing breath and voice while simultaneously lowering physiological tension. A laugh is a whole-body event, guided by an intricate network of neural pathways. Now imagine this process unfolding in a calm environment. The mind perceives something slightly unexpected, a gesture, a word, a small twist in perspective. The prefrontal cortex evaluates it. The temporal lobes search memory. The amygdala senses that it is safe. The nucleus accumbens releases a warm wave of pleasure. Muscles soften, breath brightens, and laughter rises gently into the quiet air. This experience, though effortless, reflects one of the most sophisticated patterns of neural activity in the human brain. Humor is a test of cognitive flexibility. It requires the ability to shift rapidly between interpretations, to see multiple meanings in a single moment, and to let go of the literal in favor of the playful. It requires imagination, emotional intelligence, and the capacity to hold contradictions lightly. It is a sign of a mind that can move fluidly between perspectives. Consider the way surprise functions in humor. The brain constantly predicts what will happen next, creating a quiet hum of expectation that guides perception. When a joke interrupts this prediction with a twist, the brain experiences a burst of dissonance. For a moment, the mind hangs suspended between what it expected and what it perceives. This suspension creates an internal tension, a slight tightening of the cognitive fabric. When the mind resolves the discrepancy and sees the meaning behind the twist, the tension collapses into relief. That collapse is where laughter begins. Timing is essential. When someone tells a joke, the pause before the punchline allows the brain to hold its predictions still. The moment of release that follows is a finely calibrated shift. Too early, and the mind has no time to form expectation. Too late, and the tension becomes confusion rather than humor. Perfect timing lands like a soft finger tapping a glass, releasing a clean, resonant sound that spreads outward through the nervous system. Humor also depends on the brain's ability to detect patterns. Humans are natural pattern seekers, constantly searching for structure, rhythm, and meaning in the world. Comedy often disrupts these patterns in ways that make the unexpected feel delightfully clear. A familiar situation might be presented in an unusual form. A phrase might twist in its final moment. A physical movement might contradict its expected outcome. The brain enjoys this kind of cognitive dance. It rewards the mind for noticing the shift, for grasping the hidden structure beneath the surface of surprise. This interplay between expectation and deviation is why the simplest forms of humor, such as tickling, are rooted in unpredictability. When someone tries to tickle themselves, the brain predicts the sensation and cancels the surprise. But when someone else creates unpredictable touch, the brain cannot anticipate the exact pattern, and laughter emerges from the blend of alertness and assurance of safety. Humor is not only cognitive, it is deeply emotional. The warmth that fills the body during laughter is intertwined with the chemistry of calm. When the brain detects a harmless incongruity, it temporarily shifts from a state of vigilance to a state of ease. The autonomic nervous system moves away from the fight or flight response and toward rest and relaxation. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, blood pressure eases. The body experiences a gentle wave of parasympathetic activity. Humor becomes a natural antidote to stress. The brain also uses humor to strengthen social bonds. When people laugh together, their neural rhythms begin to synchronize. Mirror neurons, which help interpret the actions and emotions of others, fire in harmony. This creates a shared emotional experience. The brain treats communal laughter as a sign of trust and belonging. It blends reward chemistry with social connection, reinforcing the idea that shared joy is essential for group cohesion. In this way, humor acts as a bridge between minds. It allows people to understand one another with minimal effort. A single moment of shared laughter can soften conflict, reduce tension, and create a sense of unity. The brain is wired to experience laughter not as an isolated event, but as a communal experience. Even when someone laughs alone, they often imagine the presence of others, reflecting the social nature of humor's evolution. The cognitive complexity of humor becomes even clearer when we consider how many layers the mind must process in just a few seconds. A humorous moment may involve language, memory, culture, timing, emotion, and social context all at once. The brain must decode the meaning behind the words, understand the intention behind them, and interpret the social cues that surround the moment. If a gesture contradicts the expected meaning, humor may arise. If the tone of voice shifts at an unexpected angle, humor may appear. The mind must hold multiple interpretations simultaneously and quickly choose the one that feels emotionally satisfying. As the brain resolves these layers, it releases tension with a gentle wave of pleasure. That release is deeply soothing. It calms the nervous system and lightens the cognitive load. Humor becomes a way for the mind to stretch, to play, to engage with complexity without becoming overwhelmed. Humor also activates the brain's default mode network, the system involved in imagination, daydreaming, and self-reflection. When something humorous occurs, the mind briefly steps outside the linear flow of thought and enters a more fluid, associative space. Ideas connect in unexpected ways. Images combine. New meanings arise. The brain becomes more flexible, able to see the world from new angles. This creative shift is one of humor's greatest gifts. It allows the mind to break free from rigid patterns, to breathe in new mental air, and to view challenges with fresh perspective. It is why humor often arises during difficult times, offering a momentary escape from heaviness. The brain uses humor as a way to reframe experience, to soften the edges of reality, to find light in the shadows. Now imagine a quiet moment before sleep. The mind drifts in a soft, open space. Thoughts appear with gentle edges. The brain relaxes its grip on structure. In this peaceful state, the patterns that support humor continue to move beneath awareness, offering subtle warmth to the inner world. Even without laughter, the architecture of humor supports resilience, curiosity, and emotional balance. Deep inside the brain's networks, humor and calm share similar pathways. Both rely on a shift from tension to release, from vigilance to rest. Both invite the body into a state of gentle ease. Both remind the nervous system that the world contains lightness alongside challenge. As the night deepens, the brain's understanding of humor becomes a quiet companion. It holds the memory of every laugh shared across time. It carries the biological legacy of ancient fires and early communities. It stores the wisdom of surprise, the comfort of release, and the soft reassurance that joy can arise even in unexpected moments. Humor is not merely an emotion. It is a testament to the brain's remarkable ability to balance complexity and ease. A reflection of the mind's capacity backed to navigate the world with both intelligence and play. A gentle expression of the resilience woven into human nature. And through this understanding, the story of humor continues its quiet path, leading into the comforting world of social laughter, where minds connect and hearts soften in shared rhythm. Social laughter. In the soft architecture of human life, laughter moves between people like a quiet current, warm and unhurried. It is more than a sound, more than a reaction. It is a bridge that spans the distance between minds, a gentle thread that ties individuals into a shared emotional space. To understand social laughter is to understand why humans need one another, why connection eases the weight of existence, and why joy expands when it is witnessed by another heart. Imagine a small gathering of humans in an early world. The night is cool. The fire glows with a pale gold shimmer. Families sit close enough to feel one another's presence, to exchange warmth through unspoken signals. In this circle, laughter is not entertainment. It is communication that travels through the group like ripples in water. When one person laughs, others feel the sound long before they consciously interpret it. Their bodies respond to the subtle rise and fall of breath, to the tone, to the rhythm. Laughter echoes through them, calling forth their own release. It becomes shared without effort. In this ancient setting, laughter served a vital role. Early human life required cooperation. Survival depended on the group's ability to trust, to coordinate, to soothe conflict, and to maintain harmony. Laughter was a natural tool for all of these needs. When the group laughed together, they synchronized emotionally. Their rhythms aligned, tension dissolved, bonds strengthened. Laughter was not frivolous. It was a mechanism that shaped the social fabric, enabling humans to live together through hardship, migration, scarcity, and uncertainty. Even today, laughter performs this function. When people laugh with one another, their hearts beat more closely in rhythm. Their bodies reach a similar balance between alertness and relaxation. Their brains release oxytocin, the hormone linked to trust and bonding. A shared laugh says, without words, we are aligned, we are safe, we understand one another. This sense of mutual understanding lies at the heart of social cohesion. It transforms a group of individuals into a community. Consider how laughter spreads. It does not wait for analysis. It does not require explanation. A single laugh can ignite an entire room. A person who hears laughter behind them may begin to smile even before turning to look. This contagious quality reveals something deep about human nature. The brain is wired to share emotional states, especially positive ones. Mirror neurons fire when we see someone laugh, allowing us to feel a shadow of their joy. This reflection invites us to join them, to match their emotional tone, to inhabit the same mental landscape for a moment. Social laughter does not require words. It often works best without them. Think of moments in life when two people meet eyes and begin laughing without speaking. A small absurdity, a shared misunderstanding, a moment of recognition. These experiences depend not on language, but on the ability to read one another's emotions through expressions, posture, and subtle cues. Humans have an extraordinary ability to sense mood, to feel another person's emotional presence, and to respond instinctively. Laughter becomes a natural extension of this capacity. In many societies, communal laughter has long played a role in strengthening relationships. Festivals, rituals, gatherings, and communal meals often include joking, storytelling, and playful teasing. These moments reinforce unity. They remind people of shared identity, shared experience, shared meaning. When a group laughs together, the boundaries between individuals soften. Differences become less sharp. Communication becomes smoother. Conflict becomes easier to resolve. Laughter cultivates a shared emotional field where cooperation thrives. Even small social interactions are shaped by humor. A gentle laugh at the beginning of a conversation dissolves awkwardness. A shared smile breaks tension between strangers. A moment of light amusement can transform formality into warmth. In professional groups, Humor increases trust and reduces hierarchy. In families, it creates memories, builds resilience, and helps children feel safe enough to explore the world. In friendships, laughter is often the foundation upon which intimacy grows. The dynamics of social laughter become even clearer when we observe how people position themselves physically. People who share a strong bond naturally orient their bodies toward one another when laughing. They lean in, their shoulders turn, their faces open. These micro-adjustments show that laughter invites closeness. It narrows the physical distance between people, just as it narrows the emotional distance. Humor also acts as a gentle test of compatibility. When two people share a similar sense of humor, they find it easier to understand one another's worldview. Their minds operate with similar patterns of perception, interpretation, and imagination. Laughter becomes a way of saying, "I see the world in a way that resembles how you see it." This recognition deepens connection. It communicates belonging on a subtle and immediate level. There is a reason that early relationships often bloom around shared laughter. It signals safety. It signals resonance. It signals that the other person will not bring harm. In this way, humor becomes a form of emotional weaving, creating threads of trust that strengthen with each shared moment of joy. In times of tension, social laughter becomes even more important. When a group faces stress, humor can ease the burden. A single light moment can shift the emotional direction of an entire gathering. It restores balance. It gives people permission to breathe again. In difficult circumstances, laughter becomes a release valve. It prevents tension from building to dangerous levels. It keeps the group flexible and resilient. The power of social laughter becomes especially clear in environments where cooperation is essential. Travelers resting together, workers relying on one another, soldiers bonding during long nights, families navigating hardship, strangers experiencing a shared challenge. In each of these settings, humor lightens the emotional load. It reminds people that they are not alone. It transforms a collection of individuals into a shared consciousness, where burdens are distributed rather than carried in isolation. Even in silence, social laughter leaves a trace. After a shared laugh, people feel closer, even if they do not speak again. The body remembers the warmth of the moment. The mind stores the ease that passed between individuals. When they meet again, even months later, the memory of that shared laughter acts as a bridge. It shortens the distance between their lives. Social laughter also reveals how deeply humans are shaped by context. A joke told alone may fall flat, but the same joke told among friends may evoke warm, rolling laughter. This is because the emotional field of a group amplifies humor. The presence of supportive listeners makes the brain more receptive to surprise, more relaxed in its evaluations, more willing to release tension. Humor thrives in environments of safety and connection. There is an ancient wisdom woven into this. Laughter has always been a communal experience. It brings people into the same emotional space with minimal effort. It is a form of shared meaning that requires no translation. It is one of the few human behaviors that is immediately recognized across cultures and across time. Imagine now a modern gathering, a group of friends seated together after a long day. The light is soft, the room is warm. Someone tells a story with a playful tone. The others listen, their attention drawn gently toward the storyteller's expressions. A moment of surprise, a twist they did not expect. Laughter moves through the group, brightening the air, softening each person's inner world. For a brief moment, the worries of the day loosen their grip. Everyone feels lighter. Everyone feels closer. In these shared laughs, people glimpse something fundamental about themselves. Humans are not meant to carry their lives entirely alone. The mind finds comfort in knowing that others can see what it sees, feel what it feels, and understand the small absurdities of existence. Each shared smile reflects an alignment of inner worlds. Each shared laugh affirms the bonds that sustain human life. The power of social laughter does not end when the moment passes. Its effects ripple outward. Groups that laugh together develop higher levels of cooperation. They communicate more openly. They navigate conflict with greater ease. They feel a deeper sense of belonging. Humor becomes a stabilizing force in the complex structures of human relationships. Even in solitude, people often recall shared laughs to feel connected, a quiet memory of someone's smile, a fleeting recollection of a moment when the world felt lighter. These memories soothe the mind. They evoke the warmth of togetherness. The brain treats these recollections as emotional nourishment, strengthening bonds even across distance. In the quiet moments before sleep, these memories of shared laughter can bring gentle comfort. They soften the edges of solitude. They remind the mind that connection exists even in stillness. They offer the reassurance that joy is not a solitary phenomenon, but a collective experience that lives through time. And so, social laughter becomes one of the great threads of human existence. It binds communities. It deepens relationships. It eases conflict. It brings people into harmony. It opens doors to trust. It invites the mind to rest in the presence of others. Through all of human history, laughter has been a constant companion. It moved through ancient fires, through early families, through wandering tribes, through the first gatherings of civilization. It moved through rituals, stories, celebrations, and everyday moments. It carved its shape into the human nervous system, into the architecture of emotion, into the patterns of culture. It remains today as vital as ever. And from this warm and ancient foundation, the story of humor flows gently onward into the world of emotional relief, where laughter becomes a healing force, soothing the inner world with quiet grace. Emotional relief. In the quiet landscape of the human mind, laughter moves like a soft tide. It rises gently, flows through the body, and leaves behind a feeling of loosened tension. It is one of nature's simplest medicines, arriving without effort, without planning, without the need for anything more than a moment of harmless surprise or shared connection. Emotional relief is one of humor's oldest purposes. It is the steady, soothing current that carried our ancestors through nights of uncertainty and continues to support the modern mind through its daily challenges. Imagine the end of a long day in an ancient world. The air is cool. The sky is a deep and endless blue. A small group rests in the fading glow of firelight. The day has demanded effort, vigilance, and resilience. Muscles ache. Minds are alert. Tension gathers in the space between thoughts. And then, unexpectedly, someone makes a playful gesture. Not a joke in the modern sense. Simply a small, harmless disruption to the heaviness of the moment. A soft laugh escapes one person's chest, then another. The sound spreads through the group like a warm ripple, dissolving the day's weight just enough to offer comfort. That moment is not trivial. It is not decoration. It is a release valve that lets the nervous system soften. Humor has always been a gentle reset, a natural counterbalance to stress, a reminder that even in difficulty there is room for ease. Long before humans understood emotions scientifically, they understood it intuitively. Laughter made life feel lighter. It calmed the body. It smoothed the edges of worry. It helped people continue forward. In the modern world, the same mechanisms remain, hidden beneath layers of thought and responsibility. When stress rises, when the mind tightens around its concerns, humor provides a small opening, a place where the mind can breathe again. The biology of this relief is simple and ancient. When laughter begins, the autonomic nervous system shifts away from the grip of fight or flight. The heart slows, muscles release, the breath deepens. The mind feels a wave of clarity. The body experiences a quiet, nourishing calm. This soothing transformation begins with a simple signal. The amygdala, which monitors for threat, receives information that the surprising moment is not dangerous. It relaxes. The tension stored in the body begins to melt. The prefrontal cortex, which manages rational thought and decision-making, recognizes that the situation is safe and harmless. The mind transitions from vigilance to ease. Then the reward system activates, releasing dopamine and endorphins that create a warm sense of relief. The body responds with a feeling of openness, a subtle shift that can be felt in the chest, the face, the breath. Humor is one of the few experiences that simultaneously triggers both relaxation and joy. Stress relief and positive emotion arrive in the same moment, like two streams flowing into a single pool. This combination makes laughter uniquely therapeutic. It allows the mind to let go without collapsing. It brings lightness without avoidance. It restores balance gently, guiding the nervous system back toward equilibrium. The emotional relief that humor provides is most noticeable in moments of strain. Consider someone returning home after a difficult day. Their mind is full, their body is tense. A simple moment of unexpected humor, a playful comment, a familiar gesture, a light-hearted observation can break through the heaviness like a small beam of light. It does not erase the difficulty, but it softens the emotional field around it. It gives the mind room to rest, to breathe, to reorganize its thoughts. This pattern appears in every culture. In times of hardship, people turn instinctively toward humor, not because they are ignoring pain, but because humor helps them hold pain more gently. During long journeys, families tease one another softly to maintain morale. During difficult seasons, communities share humorous stories that relieve collective tension. During illness, caretakers use lightness to soothe fear. Humor becomes a shared coping mechanism, a way to carry the weight together rather than alone. The relief that humor provides is not shallow. It penetrates the deeper layers of the mind. When laughter rises, it signals that the situation is safe enough for the body to let go. For early humans, this distinction was essential. A sudden noise in the dark required vigilance. A moment of harmless surprise allowed for the return of calm. Today, stress often does not come from external threats, but from internal pressure, worry, and anticipation. Humor still acts as a safety signal, telling the nervous system, it is okay to release now. Emotional relief through humor also involves reframing. When something unexpected is interpreted as harmless and humorous, the mind learns to see challenges from a new angle. The heavy becomes lighter, the rigid becomes flexible, the overwhelming becomes manageable. Humor shifts perspective, allowing the mind to loosen its grip on its own interpretations. The moment of laughter creates psychological distance, reducing the intensity of emotional experiences. It allows the mind to say, I can see this differently. This reframing is especially valuable during moments of emotional friction. When anger rises, humor can soften it. When fear tightens the chest, humor can loosen it. When sadness grows heavy, humor can introduce a small moment of brightness. None of these emotions are erased. They simply become more breathable, more navigable, less consuming. Humor invites the mind into a softer relationship with its own feelings. Even in grief, humor finds a place, not as disrespect, but as a quiet acknowledgement of the full complexity of being human. People often laugh through tears, remembering something warm or absurd that brings the loved one closer. This laugh-lightened grief allows the heart to express its pain while holding on to the thread of connection that remains. Humor, in this context, becomes a form of emotional endurance. In therapy and healing traditions, humor is recognized as a powerful tool. Therapists sometimes use gentle humor to help people see their thoughts from a new perspective, to dissolve defensiveness, or to bring curiosity into places where fear has settled. Humor can break emotional patterns that feel immovable. It opens space for insight by softening the rigidity of the moment. It makes difficult truths easier to approach, easier to hold, easier to integrate. Humor also supports emotional regulation in everyday life. When someone feels overwhelmed, a small moment of lightness can prevent the buildup of stress. It resets the mind's emotional baseline. It acts as a pause, a breath, a shift in direction. Over time, these small resets accumulate. They weave resilience into the fabric of daily experience. They create a rhythm of tension and release that keeps the mind from becoming too tightly bound. Consider how humor moves through a stressful environment. In a busy workspace, colleagues share a brief laugh to reduce the weight of deadlines. In a family home, parents use humor to help children cope with frustration or fear. In crowded cities, strangers exchange smiles after something unexpected happens, easing the tension of the moment. These small interactions act like tiny anchors of calm, giving the nervous system something soft to hold on to. Emotional relief through humor also strengthens physiological health. Laughter reduces cortisol, the primary stress hormone. It stimulates the immune system. It improves cardiovascular function by increasing blood flow and oxygenation. It relaxes muscles that have held tension for too long. These effects are subtle, but when experienced regularly, they contribute to an overall sense of vitality and balance. Humor becomes a quiet support for the body as well as the mind. In moments of anxiety, humor can shift the body's internal landscape. The sudden lightness that comes from laughter interrupts cycles of worry. The mind becomes temporarily unable to maintain the same intensity of fear. The body, sensing this shift, begins to relax. The breath settles. The shoulders fall. The cycle of anxiety loosens. This interruption, even if brief, can create meaningful change when repeated over time. Emotional relief through humor also encourages openness. When people laugh together, they become more receptive to one another. Walls soften, defenses lower, communication becomes easier, conflicts become less rigid. When people feel emotionally safe, they can express themselves more honestly, more clearly, and more compassionately. Humor contributes to this atmosphere of safety, making it easier for people to connect and understand each other. This openness extends inward as well. When someone laughs, they often feel more accepting of themselves. Self-criticism becomes less sharp. Inattention becomes less restrictive. Humor teaches the mind to look at its own difficulties with gentleness. It makes room for imperfection. It invites forgiveness. It encourages self-kindness. The ability to laugh at oneself in a warm and non-judgmental way is a form of emotional wisdom. There is also a quiet spiritual dimension to emotional relief through humor. Laughter reminds the mind of life's unpredictability, its softness, its fluidity. It reveals the small absurdities that exist within ordinary experience. It invites people to release their grip on control, to allow life to unfold with a little more ease. Humor becomes a way of saying, I do not need to carry everything alone. I can let life breathe. Imagine sitting near a window on a quiet evening. A cool breeze moves through the room. Outside, the world feels calm. Something small and unexpected happens. A light moment, a memory, a gesture, and laughter rises gently, softening the atmosphere. The mind unwinds. The breath deepens. The world feels a little more manageable, a little more kind, a little more spacious. This is the essence of emotional relief. Humor allows the mind to rest in the present. It pulls attention away from the weight of the past and the pull of the future. It brings awareness into the moment, where breath and sensation are enough. It is a subtle form of mindfulness, guiding the mind toward presence through play rather than effort. This makes humor a natural ally of rest, meditation, and emotional clarity. Emotional relief through humor also creates continuity across time. A laugh shared in childhood may echo throughout a lifetime, offering comfort during adulthood. A moment of family humor may come back during times of struggle, reminding someone of warmth and safety. These emotional memories act as anchors, connecting different chapters of life through a single thread of joy. In relationships, humor becomes a shared emotional language. Couples use humor to ease tension, to reconnect after misunderstandings, to communicate affection. Families use humor to create memories, to teach lessons, to celebrate traditions. Friends use humor to navigate the complexities of growing up, of aging, of changing. These shared laughs become emotional landmarks, guiding people through the terrain of their relationships. Even at the end of life, humor remains. People nearing their final days often share small moments of lightness with those they love. These gentle laughs do not deny the gravity of the moment. They offer a bridge between fear and acceptance, a reminder that joy exists even in the most delicate spaces, a reminder that humanity endures through connection and lightness. Emotional relief through humor is not an escape from reality. It is a way of embracing reality with a softer heart. It allows people to experience the full spectrum of life without becoming overwhelmed. It teaches balance. It teaches the value of release. It teaches that even in moments of difficulty, there is room for warmth. As the mind continues this quiet journey into the science of humor, emotional relief becomes the foundation from which creativity, resilience, and connection can grow. And from this soft place of ease, the path leads naturally toward cognitive play, where imagination and humor dance together in the open space of the mind. Cognitive play. In the gentle landscape of the human mind, there is a space where imagination stretches its limbs, where ideas dance lightly with one another, and where the boundaries between the real and the possible become soft enough to bend. This space is where humor becomes cognitive play. It is where the mind experiments, rearranges, reinterprets, and transforms experience into something lighter, brighter, and more flexible. Humor is not only emotional release or social bonding. It is also a form of mental exploration, a playground of thought where creativity and curiosity wander freely. Imagine a quiet moment in early human life. The day's tasks have ended. The fire burns with a warm, steady glow. The night air hums softly with distant sounds. In this stillness, someone makes a playful gesture, a movement slightly exaggerated, or a sound that mimics an animal in a way that feels surprising and strange. Others look up, not with fear, but with curiosity. Their minds tilt just enough to see the familiar in a new light. A laugh rises. A moment of cognitive play unfolds. This small, harmless twist of expectation is the essence of humor's relationship with creativity. The mind sees something it recognizes. Then it sees something unexpected layered on top of that recognition. The brain must momentarily pause, shift, and reinterpret. This shift is the soil in which imagination grows. Humor stretches the mind beyond literal meaning, inviting it into a flexible state where patterns can break and reform, where ideas can rearrange themselves into new shapes. Cognitive play begins with curiosity. The human brain is designed to explore. It is constantly seeking patterns, searching for meaning, predicting what comes next. When humor disrupts these predictions in a harmless way, the mind does not shut down. It opens. It becomes receptive to novelty. It enjoys the cognitive challenge of reinterpreting the world. This enjoyment is part of what makes humor feel so satisfying. It is a reward for mental flexibility. Consider the way children laugh. They laugh easily, openly, spontaneously. Their humor is often rooted in play. Silly faces, nonsensical words, exaggerated actions. Their minds are naturally flexible, unbound by rigid rules or fixed interpretations. They embrace absurdity with delight because it allows them to explore new cognitive possibilities. Their laughter reflects a brain learning to navigate the world through experimentation. Adults often forget this state of natural play. Responsibilities, routines, and thought patterns become more rigid. But humor restores that flexibility. Even a simple joke can remind the mind that meaning is not fixed, that there is room to reinterpret, that the world can be approached with a lighter, more expansive touch. Cognitive play reawakens the sense of wonder that lives inside every human being. Humor activates the brain's associative networks. When someone hears something funny, the mind rapidly connects ideas that usually remain separate. A metaphor suddenly becomes literal. A literal statement becomes metaphorical. A familiar phrase takes on a new meaning. These unexpected connections stimulate the default mode network, the system involved in imagination, daydreaming, and internal reflection. Humor lights up this network, allowing ideas to move freely, recombine, and form new patterns. This cognitive freedom is essential for creativity. Many creative breakthroughs arise from the same mental processes that support humor. A scientist might see an unexpected similarity between two concepts. A writer might reinterpret a familiar idea from a new angle. An artist might play with patterns in a way that defies expectation. In each case, the mind is doing what humor trains it to do, embracing incongruity, exploring alternative meanings, and allowing surprise to guide insight. When humor breaks a pattern, the mind experiences a moment of cognitive shift. For a fraction of a second, it holds two interpretations at once: the expected and the unexpected. This duality invites the mind into a more fluid way of thinking. It encourages flexibility, resilience, and openness. Cognitive play becomes not just amusement, but training. It strengthens the mind's ability to adapt, to improvise, to navigate change with ease. Consider how jokes work. A joke sets up a familiar scenario. The mind builds a prediction. Then the punchline disrupts that prediction, forcing the mind to reinterpret the setup in a new way. This reinterpretation is the essence of cognitive play. It requires mental agility. It rewards the ability to shift between meanings. It celebrates the mind's capacity for creative thought. Even puns, often seen as simple wordplay, reveal the mind's ability to hold multiple meanings simultaneously. A single word becomes two ideas at once. The mind must toggle between interpretations, seeing the humor in their overlap. This mental movement strengthens associative thinking. It keeps cognitive pathways flexible. It invites the mind to enjoy its own capacity for complexity. Cognitive play also appears in satire, parody, and absurd humor. These forms require the mind to recognize patterns in society, language, or behavior, and then distort those patterns in creative ways. Satire exaggerates, revealing hidden truths through playful distortion. Parody imitates, highlighting the structure of something familiar by reshaping it. Absurd humor breaks logic entirely, inviting the mind into a space where meaning is intentionally unstable. These forms of humor challenge the mind to hold uncertainty with ease, to navigate ambiguity, not with fear, but with curiosity and delight. This ability to tolerate ambiguity is a sign of psychological resilience. People who can engage in cognitive play are better equipped to adapt to change, to solve problems creatively, and to approach difficulties with a flexible mindset. Humor trains the brain to step outside rigid patterns, making room for new possibilities. It encourages a kind of emotional agility that helps people recover more quickly from setbacks. Humor and imagination also share the same emotional foundation: safety. The mind can only play when it feels secure. Early humans laughed most easily after fear had passed. Children laugh most freely when they feel protected. Adults embrace humor when they trust their environment. This connection between safety and play explains why humor is often used in spaces where people need emotional permission to relax: classrooms, workplaces, families, therapy sessions, and even difficult conversations. In these settings, humor acts as a gentle signal. It is safe to explore. It is safe to experiment. It is safe to think differently. This signal encourages authenticity. It invites deeper engagement. It helps people express ideas without fear of judgment. Cognitive play becomes a pathway to insight, to understanding, to connection. Even in solitude, the mind engages in cognitive play. Someone walking alone might remember something funny and smile quietly. The memory activates the same playful patterns of thought. Internal humor reminds the mind of its own flexibility. It keeps cognitive pathways open, even when no one else is present. These small private laughs are often moments of clarity, where tension dissolves and perspective widens. Cognitive play also appears in dreams. The dreaming mind often rearranges reality, creating scenes that defy logic yet feel meaningful. This flexibility mirrors the processes that humor engages during waking life. In dreams, the mind experiments freely. It combines elements in unexpected ways. It explores possibilities that waking consciousness might resist. Humor taps into this same well of imaginative potential. Think of a time when something unexpected made you laugh. A surprising phrase, a playful misunderstanding, a moment where the world revealed a hidden layer of lightness. In that instant, the mind performed a small act of creativity. It reinterpreted reality. It embraced novelty. It stepped outside the predictable and into something new. That movement, small and effortless, is the essence of cognitive play. This form of play strengthens the capacity for learning. When humor accompanies new information, the mind becomes more receptive. The brain releases dopamine, which enhances attention and memory. A playful environment makes complex ideas easier to absorb. Teachers use humor to illuminate concepts. Leaders use humor to inspire creativity. Communities use humor to share knowledge. Cognitive play turns learning into exploration rather than obligation. Humor also supports problem solving. When the mind is rigid, it struggles to find solutions. When it is flexible, it discovers possibilities that were previously hidden. A laugh can break cognitive fixation, allowing the mind to see a situation from a new angle. Many people have experienced a moment of clarity following a laugh, as if the mind suddenly loosened its knots and found a fresh perspective. Cognitive play unlocks the pathways that lead to insight. In relationships, cognitive play appears in the small moments of shared imagination. Partners who invent playful jokes, who reinterpret everyday events with lightness, who embrace absurdity together, build relationships that are more resilient and more joyful. They create a shared cognitive world that remains vibrant and open. Their humor becomes a language of creativity, strengthening emotional connection. In group settings, cognitive play fosters collaboration. When people feel free to think playfully, they contribute ideas more openly. They build on one another's insights. They experiment without fear. Humor becomes the lubricant that keeps ideas flowing. It turns problem-solving into a collective act of creative exploration. Cognitive play also deepens self-understanding. When someone laughs at their own thoughts, they loosen the grip of self-judgment. They see themselves with gentleness. They learn to hold their identity with flexibility. Humor becomes a mirror that reveals the mind's patterns, while also allowing those patterns to shift. This softens the self and makes room for growth. The mind's ability to play with ideas is a hallmark of consciousness. It reflects the human capacity for abstract thought, for imagination, for symbolic understanding. Humor, in this sense, is more than entertainment. It is a celebration of the mind's highest functions. It showcases the brain's ability to balance logic and creativity, structure and freedom, meaning and ambiguity. Imagine a quiet room on a calm evening. A book rests open on a table. A gentle breeze moves through the air. Someone sits quietly, reflecting on the day. A thought arises, unexpected, amusing, soft. They smile. Their mind expands just a little. The cognitive play that humor provides becomes a moment of subtle renewal, a reminder that thought can be fluid, that understanding can shift, that life contains hidden layers of possibility. Cognitive play is the mind's way of breathing more deeply. It is the mental equivalent of stretching, loosening, opening. It invites the mind to wander with curiosity through the landscapes of imagination. It makes room for wonder, for insight, for new forms of understanding. Through humor, the mind learns to take itself lightly, to explore widely, and to rest softly in the richness of its own creative potential. And from this wide, open field of cognitive play, the story of humor moves naturally into the ancient world, where the earliest civilizations shaped comedy into ritual, performance, and cultural wisdom, weaving laughter into the heart of human tradition. Ancient comedy. In the deep memory of human civilization, long before written history gathered itself into pages, Laughter moved through the earliest cultures like a quiet current of light. It drifted through rituals, celebrations, gatherings, and public spaces. It shaped storytelling. It softened power. It revealed truths that could not be spoken directly. Ancient comedy was not entertainment in the modern sense. It was a cultural force, a communal practice, a form of wisdom woven into daily life. Imagine the world thousands of years ago, when cities were young and the first civilizations were learning how to live together in large groups. The rhythms of life were slow and earthy. People rose with the sun, worked in fields or workshops, and returned to shared spaces in the evening. In these early settlements, laughter became a thread that stitched community together. It was used to teach, to comfort, to challenge, and to celebrate. Humor was understood intuitively as a form of emotional and cultural nourishment. Picture an early Mesopotamian village as dusk begins to gather. The warm glow of oil lamps flickers along mud brick walls. Families sit together after long hours of work. A storyteller steps forward with a playful grin. Their voice rises and falls, carrying the soft rhythm of a tale rooted in daily life. The story exaggerates the quirks of a local character: the clumsy merchant, the boastful farmer, the mischievous child. The listeners laugh not only at the humor, but at the recognition. They see themselves, their neighbors, their struggles. Comedy becomes a mirror, reflecting the human condition with warmth rather than judgment. One of the earliest recorded jokes in history comes from ancient Sumer, inscribed on a clay tablet over 4,000 years ago. It describes a situation of unexpected irony, showing that even early civilizations found joy in the twist between expectation and reality. These early jokes reveal a truth that stretches across time. Humans have always used humor to explore the complexity of daily life, to soften the sharpness of experience, and to connect with others. Ancient Egypt had its own forms of comedy. Egyptian humor often involved playful exaggerations of social roles: nobles, workers, priests, and animals behaving in unexpected ways. Artists carve humorous scenes onto papyrus and pottery, revealing a civilization that appreciated both solemn ritual and light-hearted play. Some Egyptian stories parodied royal behavior, using humor to poke at authority without threatening the structure of society. Even the gods were sometimes depicted with a hint of mischief, suggesting that laughter was woven into the spiritual imagination of the time. In ancient China, humor found its home in philosophy, poetry, and storytelling. Philosophers such as Zhuangzi used playful paradoxes and humorous anecdotes to reveal deeper truths. His writing contains stories of absurd transformations, talking animals, and sages who respond to serious questions with light-hearted wisdom. This humor was not frivolous. It was a contemplative tool, a way to loosen rigid thinking, inviting the reader to approach life with fluidity and openness. Chinese humor often embraced subtlety, emphasizing wit, irony, and the delicate art of seeing the world from different angles. Across the oceans, indigenous cultures developed their own comedic traditions. In many Native American societies, the trickster emerged as a central figure. Trickster characters, such as Coyote, Raven, and Spider, embodied both wisdom and foolishness. They disrupted order with playful chaos, using humor to reveal the deeper patterns of existence. Their stories taught children how to navigate life. They reminded adults that humility, perspective, and adaptability were essential for survival. Tricksters blurred the boundaries between the sacred and the playful. showing that humor had a place even in spiritual understanding. Ancient Greece took comedy to unprecedented heights, turning it into an art form that shaped public life. Greek comedy was performed in grand theatres carved from stone, echoing across crowds of thousands. Comic playwrights like Aristophanes used humor to critique politics, culture, and society. Their plays blended satire, slapstick, parody, and social commentary. Through exaggerated characters and elaborate plots, they exposed hypocrisy, challenged authority, and encouraged citizens to reflect on their shared values. Greek comedy was a form of civic engagement. It allowed people to laugh at themselves and the world around them, while strengthening the bonds of democratic discourse. Yet Greek humor was not only political. It also explored the absurdity of human life, the unpredictable nature of fate, the tension between desire and reality, the humorous contradictions that emerge from daily existence. Comedy became a guide through the complexities of identity, responsibility, and social expectation. In these performances, laughter carried both joy and wisdom. Rome inherited Greek comedic traditions and added its own layers of style. Roman humor embraced broad physical comedy, clever wordplay, and playful critique of everyday situations. Playwrights, such as Plautus and Terence, wrote comedies that featured mistaken identities, clever slaves, foolish nobles, and chaotic misunderstandings. Roman audiences delighted in these stories because they reflected the tensions of bustling urban life. Comedy provided relief from the pressures of empire, offering citizens a chance to laugh at the imperfections of human behavior. Across the Mediterranean, ancient Jewish humor developed around the complexities of spiritual life. Humor in this tradition often involved questioning, paradox, and self-reflection. It drew from the challenges of diaspora, the struggles of identity, and the resilience required to maintain cultural continuity. Stories, proverbs, and teachings often included gentle humor to ease difficulty and bring communities closer. This tradition recognized that laughter could coexist with reverence, and that humor could illuminate deeper truths with tenderness. In ancient India, comedic traditions emerged through Sanskrit plays, folk performances, and poetic storytelling. Classical Indian drama categorized humor as one of the 9 rasas, the essential emotional flavors of human experience. This recognition placed humor alongside love, courage, peace, and devotion, affirming its importance in the emotional life of a community. Comedic characters appeared in plays not merely to entertain, but to balance the emotional atmosphere, offering relief from tension and guiding the audience back toward harmony. Across Africa, humor played a central role in oral traditions. Griots and storytellers used humor to teach history, convey moral lessons, and reinforce cultural identity. Stories often contained a mix of playful exaggeration and sharp insight. Humor strengthened social bonds, encouraged cooperation, and helped communities navigate challenges. These traditions recognized that laughter was a powerful tool for resilience, community cohesion, and education. In Polynesian cultures, humor became part of ritual storytelling and everyday conversation. Playful teasing, known as taufa or similar terms, helped maintain social balance. Through gentle humor, people could express affection, address conflict, and negotiate social roles. Humor made relationships more fluid, allowing people to navigate expectations and responsibilities with grace. Throughout ancient civilizations, humor played multiple roles simultaneously, It was a tool for teaching, a way of coping with hardship, a method of expressing truth when direct expression was risky, a form of bonding, a path to wisdom, a source of comfort, a mirror held up to society. Ancient comedy often emerged in communal spaces, around fires, in public squares, in marketplaces, in rituals, in festivals. These gatherings were places where people set aside daily pressures and reconnected with a shared sense of humanity. Laughter flowed freely, dissolving barriers of status, wealth, and power. Even rulers understood the value of humor. Some encouraged comedic performances to maintain social harmony. Others recognized that humor allowed citizens to express discontent safely, reducing tension within society. In many cultures, humor took on a sacred dimension. It became part of rituals designed to honor deities, celebrate seasonal changes, or mark important transitions. Laughter was seen as a cleansing force, capable of renewing the spirit. It helped people face uncertainty with strength and joy. It reminded them that life was not only struggle, but also lightness and wonder. As civilizations grew more complex, comedy evolved into performance traditions. Masked performers, jesters, clowns, satirists, and storytellers carried the flame of ancient humor forward. They preserved the wisdom of their ancestors while adapting it to new contexts. Their work relied on cognitive play, social connection, and emotional relief, the same foundations that shaped humor at the beginning of human history. These ancient comedic traditions continue to influence modern humor. The structure of jokes, the rhythm of timing, the art of parody, the blend of critique and laughter, the role of humor in community life. All of these draw from roots planted thousands of years ago. Ancient comedy is not a distant relic. It is a living thread woven into the fabric of the present. Imagine once more an ancient evening. The fire crackles softly. The air is calm. A storyteller steps into the center of the gathering. Their eyes shimmer with mischief. Their voice rises. The group leans in. A playful twist, a harmless surprise sparks laughter. The sound spreads outward, rolling softly through the night. For a moment, everyone breathes more deeply. The weight of life softens. The world feels safe, connected, alive. This is the legacy of ancient comedy. A legacy of joy. A legacy of wisdom. A legacy of shared humanity. And from this deep historical foundation, humor spreads across cultures like a gentle river, carrying different expressions of laughter while revealing the universal patterns that connect all people. Humor across cultures. Across the vast tapestry of human life, laughter weaves patterns that reflect both universal experience and cultural uniqueness. Every society, whether ancient or modern, small or expansive, has shaped humor according to its values, beliefs, histories, and ways of seeing the world. Yet beneath these differences lies a shared human pulse, a common rhythm of joy, a familiar spark of recognition. Humor becomes a window into the soul of each culture, revealing how people understand themselves and how they navigate the world together. Imagine the world spread out beneath a wide sky. Mountains rising like ancient guardians, rivers winding through forests and plains, deserts breathing heat, islands surrounded by endless blue. In each environment, humans grew into communities with their own stories, rituals, and meanings. And in each, laughter found its place. Humor became a living expression of culture, shaped by its landscape, its struggles, its triumphs, and its vision of what it means to be human. In many Western cultures, humor often celebrates individuality, irony, and independence. It reflects a worldview that values personal freedom and expressive authenticity. Jokes frequently revolve around the unexpected bends in personal life, the tension between what one hopes for and what reality delivers. Self-deprecating humor appears often, offering a gentle way for individuals to acknowledge imperfection. This style embraces vulnerability, transforming personal flaws into shared connection. It says, "I am human, just like you." Irony and sarcasm also flourish in Western humor, where language becomes a playground for contradiction. Tone and intention dance together, creating layers of meaning. This humor encourages listeners to read between the lines, to sense the playful reversal embedded in the words. It is a way of expressing frustration, affection, or critique without direct confrontation, allowing complex emotions to travel lightly. In contrast, humor in many East Asian cultures often emphasizes subtlety, harmony, and social balance. Rather than focusing on individual expression, it tends to highlight the relationships between people. Gentle teasing, playful understatement, and ironic humility are common. These forms of humor allow groups to navigate social roles gracefully, easing tension without disrupting harmony. In societies where respect, modesty, and group cohesion hold great importance, humor becomes an instrument of soft navigation, a way to acknowledge the unspoken, a way to bring people closer without breaking cultural rhythms. In Japan, for example, humor often appears in the form of wordplay known as dajare, gentle puns that create light-hearted connections between similar sounds. This linguistic play reflects a cultural appreciation for language as an art of subtle transformation. Another traditional form, found in Manzai comedy, features two performers, one serious, one foolish, engaging in rapid dialogue. Their rhythm mirrors the dynamics of balance and contrast found in many aspects of Japanese culture. China has a rich comedic tradition that blends playful wisdom with philosophical thought. Classical stories often include characters who behave foolishly or misunderstand social norms, revealing deeper truths through their mistakes. Humor becomes a path to insight rather than mere entertainment. It allows listeners to reflect on the complexity of human behavior with gentleness. Chinese humor often values wit, cleverness, and the ability to see contradictions without harshness. In many South Asian cultures, humor thrives in storytelling, music, and everyday conversation. Playful exaggeration, spirited banter, and affectionate teasing are woven into social life. Families gather around meals or gatherings, sharing stories full of warmth and laughter. In India, the tradition of hasya, the rasa of humor, holds that humor is one of the fundamental emotional experiences necessary for a balanced life. It reflects a worldview that embraces the full spectrum of human feeling, recognizing humor as a tool for emotional harmony. Across the Middle East, humor often navigates the complexities of social life with cleverness and resilience. Many societies in this region use humor to comment on politics, family dynamics, and social expectations. Satire is deeply ingrained, offering a way to express truth within constraints. Humor becomes a source of strength, allowing communities to endure adversity with dignity and creativity. It reflects the capacity to find lightness in struggle, turning hardship into stories shared across generations. Jewish humor, emerging from centuries of diaspora, adaptation, and resilience, often blends wit, self-reflection, and a touch of existential awareness. The humor moves fluidly between joy and sorrow, between absurdity and wisdom. It acknowledges the difficulty of life while transforming it into shared meaning. This tradition demonstrates how humor can be both a coping mechanism and a cultural identity, a celebration of survival through all odds. In many African cultures, humor lives in community gatherings, storytelling circles, music, and dance. It often takes the form of playful teasing that strengthens relationships, breaking down barriers through affection and shared joy. Humor is used to teach lessons, pass down values, and weave moral understanding into tales. In West African griot traditions, storytelling blends humor and history, allowing listeners to absorb wisdom while enjoying the narrative. In East African communities, humor often appears in the form of quick wordplay, rhythmic stories, and dynamic exchanges. These performances create vibrant social environments where laughter becomes a communal heartbeat. Humor here is not merely a moment of amusement, but a living part of cultural identity, carrying collective memory and shaping the emotional landscape of daily life. Across indigenous cultures in the Americas, humor is a foundational part of spiritual and social tradition. Communities use humor to teach children, to resolve conflict, and to guide people through challenging transitions. Trickster figures appear throughout these cultures, embodying both wisdom and mischief. They remind people that life is not linear, that balance requires flexibility, and that even sacred stories can carry laughter. Humor becomes a way of honoring the unpredictability of existence. In Polynesian cultures, humor plays a central role in social navigation. Teasing between families or clans can serve as a form of communication, easing tension and building bonds. It allows people to address conflict indirectly while maintaining respect. Humor in this context acts as a social lubricant, preserving harmony in small, close-knit communities. Indigenous Australian humor often embraces playfulness, irony, and quick improvisation. It is deeply tied to storytelling traditions, where humor and seriousness sit side by side. These stories teach cultural knowledge while celebrating the quirks of human nature. Humor becomes a tool for understanding identity, place, and history. In Northern European cultures, humor frequently mirrors the climate: dry, subtle, and understated. Scandinavian humor often involves self-deprecation, gentle irony, and acknowledgement of shared struggles. It provides warmth in cold environments, offering a quiet way for people to connect. This humor reveals a cultural appreciation for simplicity, honesty, and humility. In Southern Europe, humor tends to be expressive, lively, and full of gesture. In Italy, Spain, and Greece, jokes spill freely into conversation. Wordplay mixes with physical expression. Humor becomes part of daily life, filling public spaces with warmth and energy. It reflects a cultural focus on connection, emotion, and community. In Latin America, humor thrives within the vibrant mix of traditions, languages, and histories. It is often bold, expressive, and rooted in storytelling. It may involve satire of political life, affectionate teasing among family members, or playful celebration of everyday absurdities. Humor here is a form of resilience, binding communities together through joy and shared experience. Despite the variety of humor across cultures, certain themes appear everywhere: laughter at harmless surprises, joy in shared recognition, relief from tension, the delight of seeing the world from a different angle. These universal threads reveal something profound about human nature. The ability to laugh transcends geography, history, and tradition. It belongs to everyone. Yet each culture shapes humor according to its values. Humor reveals what a culture considers important, sacred, or complicated. It highlights the boundaries of respect, the ways people relate to authority, the expectations of social life. What one culture finds funny may confuse another because humor relies on shared assumptions, shared stories, shared rhythms of thought. These differences are not barriers, they are expressions of humanity's diverse imagination. Humor also plays an essential role in how cultures preserve memory. Jokes and stories travel through generations, carrying echoes of past experiences. They teach lessons. They mark historical moments. They reveal how people survived, adapted, and thrived. In this way, humor becomes an archive of human resilience, a record of the ways people have faced adversity with courage and creativity. When people from different cultures share humor, something remarkable happens. They glimpse one another's worlds. They feel the warmth of connection across distance. They recognize the universal spark beneath different expressions of laughter. Humor becomes a bridge, not by erasing differences, but by honoring them with curiosity and openness. Imagine standing in a quiet place at dusk. The world around you is vast and varied. In every direction, communities laugh in their own unique ways. Some laugh loudly, others laugh softly. Some use teasing, others use wit. Some build humor into stories, others build it into daily speech. Yet all the laughter rises into the same open sky, blending like distant songs carried by the wind. Humor across cultures reminds us that while humans have many ways of speaking, we share the same emotional instruments, the same need for relief, the same longing for connection, the same delight in the unexpected, the same capacity for joy. From these countless expressions of laughter across the world, the journey of humor continues into the psychology of jokes themselves, revealing how the mind interprets surprise, meaning, misdirection, and delight. The psychology of jokes. Jokes are one of the most delicate and intricate forms of humor, yet they move through the mind with effortless grace when crafted well. A joke is a tiny story, a small universe contained within a few lines. It has structure, rhythm, tension, and release. It relies on the mind's ability to anticipate, to predict, to assemble meaning from fragments, and then to update that meaning in a sudden shift. A joke is a cognitive event disguised as amusement. It is a gentle rehearsal of pattern recognition and pattern disruption. It is a lesson in perception delivered in the form of laughter. Imagine the human mind as a storyteller that never stops narrating. At every moment, it looks at the world and asks, what comes next? This prediction-making system is essential for survival. It helps humans understand their environment, navigate danger, and form coherent interpretations of reality. But this same system also sets the stage for jokes. A joke works by inviting the mind down a familiar path, guiding it toward a particular expectation, and then shifting the direction in a way that reconfigures the meaning of everything that came before. At the heart of every joke lies incongruity. The setup leads the listener to form a certain mental structure. The punchline breaks that structure and replaces it with something unexpected, yet coherent. The pleasure arises not only from the surprise itself, but from the moment when the mind understands the new pattern. The brain delights in this quick cognitive pivot. It enjoys solving the mini puzzle embedded in the punchline. Humor researcher Peter McGraw famously described this process through what he called the benign violation principle. Humor emerges when something violates expectations, but in a harmless way. The violation catches attention. The harmlessness allows release. This idea reflects something ancient in the human mind. Early humans were constantly navigating between danger and safety, between the unexpected and the predictable. A sudden sound in the dark could be a threat or nothing at all. When the unexpected turned out to be harmless, the nervous system released tension. This release became laughter. Modern jokes echo this primitive pattern. They create a small moment of cognitive alarm. This is not what I expected, followed by a realization of safety. Ah, this is just humor. In a simple form, consider a classic joke structure. The setup primes the mind with a framework. It might suggest a particular scenario, a familiar social pattern, or a literal interpretation of a phrase. The mind prepares for the expected outcome. The punchline then shifts the frame. It forces the mind to reinterpret the setup in a new light. This reinterpretation acts like a small flash of insight. The mind recognizes the difference between its expectation and the joke's actual meaning. That recognition becomes amusement. This reinterpretation happens rapidly, often in a fraction of a second. The cognitive speed required to get a joke reflects mental agility. It also explains why jokes sometimes fall flat. If the setup is unclear, the punchline loses its impact. If the punchline arrives too soon or too late, the cognitive tension does not align correctly. Comedy, in this sense, is a precise art. It relies on timing, clarity, and rhythm. The mind reacts to these elements intuitively, even if the listener is not consciously analyzing them. Timing is especially important. In a well-delivered joke, the pause before the punchline acts as a small moment of suspense. During this pause, the mind completes its prediction. The punchline then knocks that prediction aside. If the pause is too short, the prediction never forms. If the pause is too long, the tension dissolves. The perfect pause allows the mind to hover in expectation just long enough for the twist to land with clarity. Jokes often rely on ambiguity, a word with multiple meanings, a phrase with hidden implications, a situation that can be interpreted in more than one way. The setup usually encourages the listener to adopt one interpretation, while the punchline reveals the other. The mind enjoys this shift because it showcases its own flexibility. It proves that the mind can reconstruct meaning quickly and elegantly. This mental playfulness becomes the source of pleasure. Consider a simple pun. It appears at first glance to be the simplest form of humor, but in truth, it reflects the mind's ability today to navigate linguistic complexity. When the mind encounters a word with two meanings, it selects the meaning that fits the context. A pun disrupts this choice. It forces the mind to reconsider the word and switch to the alternate meaning. The humor arises not from the word itself, but from the mind's pivot. It is the delight of suddenly seeing a new relationship between language and meaning. More complex forms of humor, such as satire, irony, and social commentary, involve multiple layers of interpretation. Satire presents a situation that appears serious on the surface, but contains exaggeration or distortion that reveals its humorous intent. The listener must recognize the mismatch between representation and reality. Irony requires the listener to detect that the speaker means something different from what is literally said. Sarcasm builds on this by adding emotional tone. These forms of humor rely on the ability to read social cues, understand context, and infer hidden intention, all advanced cognitive skills. Humor, then, becomes a measure of cognitive empathy. To understand a joke, one must often understand the perspective of the speaker. The listener must mentally simulate what the speaker is implying, what the situation means, and why the unexpected twist is amusing. This simulation reflects the brain's theory of mind, the ability to imagine the mental states of others. Humor is deeply social and deeply cognitive because it invites the mind to practice this skill through play. Some jokes reveal even deeper aspects of psychology. For example, dark humor often involves material that is normally associated with fear, sadness, or discomfort. Yet people who appreciate dark humor are not necessarily insensitive. Instead, they often have strong emotional regulation skills. Dark humor allows the mind to approach difficult topics from a distance. The distance is what makes the violation benign. The emotional space between reality and the humorous frame allows laughter to arise where fear or sorrow might otherwise dominate. Self-deprecating humor is another example of psychological depth. When someone makes fun of themselves in a gentle way, they demonstrate emotional security. They signal that they can hold their identity with lightness, that they are not overwhelmed by self-criticism. Others often respond positively to this humor because it conveys humility, vulnerability, and openness. It reduces social tension, making the environment feel safer. However, the psychology of jokes also reveals boundaries. Humor can fail when the violation feels too real or too threatening. A joke about a painful subject may not allow the listener enough distance to experience the violation as benign. Cultural background influences these boundaries as well. What one group finds harmless, another may find offensive. Humor is deeply embedded in shared assumptions, shared norms, and shared emotional histories. This variability highlights the importance of context. A joke that brings joy in one situation may create discomfort in another. The listener's emotional state also matters. Someone under stress or sadness may interpret a joke differently than someone at ease. The same punchline can produce laughter, silence, or discomfort depending on the emotional landscape of the moment. Despite these complexities, jokes remain one of the most enduring forms of human connection. Consider how people from different backgrounds, ages, or cultures can still share a moment of laughter when a joke resonates. The structure of the joke provides a map for the mind. The path may differ, but the delight in arriving at the twist is universal. Jokes also play a role in identity formation. They help individuals understand their social group. People often bond with those who get their style of humor. Shared jokes create a sense of belonging. Inside jokes, those understood only within a specific group, act as emotional passwords. They confirm membership in a shared emotional world. They become markers of shared history and trust. In this sense, jokes shape communities. They affirm values. They reinforce social roles. They challenge norms. They introduce alternate ways of thinking. In ancient times, jokes were used to critique authority. In modern times, they can challenge political landscapes, highlight social contradictions, or illuminate philosophical questions. The psychology of jokes reveals humor as a tool for insight as much as entertainment. Imagine someone hearing a joke alone at the end of a long day. Their mind engages the pattern, the setup, the expectation, the twist. A soft laugh rises in the quiet room. For a moment, the weight of the day loosens. The mind feels lighter. Jokes provide not only connection, but clarity. They give the mind a chance to stretch, to shift, to breathe. Humor becomes a way of exploring the mind, revealing the flexibility of thought, the warmth of connection, and the quiet joy of understanding. From this deep psychological terrain, the journey of humor moves into identity itself, exploring how comedy becomes a language of self-expression, belonging, and the shaping of personal and collective meaning. Comedy and identity. Comedy lives not only in the mind and not only in the shared spaces between people, but also in the inner landscape of identity. Humor shapes who we are. It helps us express ourselves, understand ourselves, and reveal parts of our personality that we might otherwise struggle to articulate. It becomes a language of personal meaning, a symbol of belonging, a mirror of the stories we tell about ourselves. Identity is not fixed. It shifts with experience, with time, with relationships, with environment. Humor is one of the tools the mind uses to make sense of these shifts. Through comedy, individuals learn to navigate their own complexity. They learn how to communicate their worldview. They learn how to hold themselves with lightness, even when the world feels heavy. Imagine someone sitting quietly at the end of a long day. They reflect on a moment when they made someone laugh earlier. A simple gesture, a playful remark, a witty observation. In that moment, they felt understood. They felt seen not only for their thoughts, but for the way they express those thoughts. That small moment of laughter became a reflection of their identity. It was a clue about who they are, how they connect, and how they move through the world. Humor is a core part of personality. Some people gravitate toward observational humor, noticing subtle patterns in daily life. Others prefer absurd humor, enjoying the surreal and unexpected. Some enjoy dry humor, delivered with understatement. Others gravitate toward expressive humor, filled with energy and gesture. Each style reveals something about how the person thinks, feels, and interprets the world. The ability to laugh at oneself is one of the most emotionally mature expressions of identity. When someone can acknowledge their quirks, mistakes, or contradictions with warmth rather than shame, they demonstrate resilience. They show that their identity is flexible rather than brittle. This kind of humor is not self-criticism. It is self-compassion in disguise. It says, I am imperfect and I accept myself. My flaws are part of my story. This form of humor also strengthens relationships. When people laugh at their own habits or tendencies, they open a door for others to feel comfortable. They lower emotional defenses. They invite others to meet them with authenticity. This mutual vulnerability deepens intimacy. Humor becomes a bridge not only between minds, but between identities. It helps people share who they are without fear. Identity also forms through the humor people choose to share. Friends who laugh at similar things often feel a strong sense of alignment. Couples who share a sense of humor feel emotionally attuned. Communities that celebrate certain forms of comedy reveal what they value. Humor styles become markers of belonging, like dialects, traditions, or rituals. They distinguish one group from another, not by exclusion, but by resonance. Inside jokes are a perfect example. They are small, private worlds built within relationships. They hold shared memories, shared experiences, shared interpretations of life. Inside jokes act as emotional shorthand, conveying warmth with just a word or gesture. They encode connection into humor, turning laughter into a symbol of shared identity. Identity also evolves through the roles people take in comedic situations. Some people naturally become storytellers, those who gather others around and narrate humorous events with vivid detail. Others become reactors, Those whose responses bring laughter into the space. Others become observers, contributing subtle humor through timing and small remarks. These roles reveal the emotional contours of personality. They show how someone participates in a group. They show how someone finds their place in the emotional landscape of others. Family dynamics often shape humor early in life. A child learns what makes their parents laugh. They learn how humor diffuses tension, how it expresses affection, how it weaves bonds. In some families, humor becomes a protective mechanism. In others, it becomes a celebration of joy. These early experiences influence humor style for years to come. They become part of identity's foundation. Cultural backgrounds also shape identity through humor. In cultures where emotional expression is open, humor may be loud and expressive. In cultures where emotional expression is restrained, humor may be subtle and understated. People internalize these patterns and carry them into adulthood, using humor to navigate social expectations. Their comedic personality becomes a blend of cultural history and personal experience. Humor can also challenge identity. When someone encounters comedy that reveals a truth about themselves, they may feel a moment of surprise or discomfort. Satire, especially, can reveal contradictions in one's beliefs or behaviors. These moments are opportunities for growth. Humor becomes a gentle mirror that reflects identity not as fixed, but as evolving. It invites self-awareness. It encourages reflection. Humor plays a vital role in identity during adolescence, when people are forming their sense of self. Teenagers use humor to experiment with roles, to test boundaries, to explore belonging. They often create humor that reflects their emerging worldview, sometimes rebellious, sometimes insightful, often experimental. Humor becomes part of the search for personal meaning. It becomes a way to declare independence, to find community, to express individuality. As people grow, humor becomes part of how they understand their life story. They recall moments when they laughed during hardship, recognizing how those moments shaped their strength. They remember humor shared with loved ones who are no longer present, preserving emotional connections through memory. Humor becomes a thread woven into identity's narrative. It is not merely something people do, it is something they are. Humor also plays a role in how people maintain their dignity. In difficult situations, a well-timed humorous remark can restore a sense of control. It can prevent the mind from drowning in fear or shame. This form of humor is not denial. It is emotional craftsmanship. It is the ability to transform discomfort into something bearable. Through laughter, identity remains intact, even in vulnerability. Group identity is shaped by humor as well. National humor, regional humor, communal humor, generational humor. These reflect shared experiences and shared worldviews. Older generations laugh at certain references. Younger generations laugh at others. These differences do not divide. They reveal the evolution of identity across time. Humor becomes a marker of historical context. Think of humor during cultural celebrations, festivals with comedic performances, rituals that include playful gestures, stories told to children with warmth and exaggeration. Humor becomes part of the collective memory. It reinforces identity at the level of community and culture. It carries traditions forward. It sustains continuity. Humor can also be a source of empowerment. Marginalized groups often use humor to navigate oppression. Comedy becomes a tool for reclaiming narrative, expressing resistance, and restoring personal agency. Laughter in these contexts is not trivial. It is powerful. It transforms pain into solidarity. It binds communities together. It gives voice to those who have been silenced. In modern times, humor has become a core part of personal branding. People shape their identity online through the kind of humor they share. Memes, videos, witty captions, playful comments. Humor becomes a language that constructs identity publicly. It signals personality, values, and emotional style. It allows people to find those who resonate with them in the vast network of digital culture. Humor also helps people understand their emotional boundaries, what they find funny, what they do not, what they laugh at when they feel safe, what they laugh at when they feel vulnerable. These patterns reveal deeper truths about identity. Humor acts like a compass, pointing toward the person's core values. It shows what matters to them, what they protect, and what they allow themselves to explore. Comedy becomes a personal sanctuary, a space where individuals can drop the weight of performance and simply exist. In laughter, identity becomes lighter, more fluid, more spacious. Self breathes. Imagine now a quiet evening. Someone sits beside a window. A small lamp glows softly nearby. They remember a moment from earlier in their life, a joke shared with a friend, a playful mistake, a moment of spontaneous joy. As they recall it, a gentle smile forms. The memory helps them understand who they are. It reconnects them with the parts of themselves that feel authentic, creative, alive. Comedy and identity are intertwined. Humor shapes the self shapes humor. They evolve together. And from this deep reflection on identity, the path of humor leads into the difficult spaces of human experience, where laughter becomes not just expression, but resilience, the ability to endure and to remain human during life's hardest moments. Humor in hard times. There are moments in the human experience when life grows heavy, when uncertainty gathers like thick clouds, when sorrow presses against the chest, and when the mind feels worn by the weight of circumstances. In these moments, humor seems impossible at first glance. Yet again and again, throughout history and across cultures, laughter has emerged not as denial, but as resilience. Humor in hard times is a quiet form of courage, a way of keeping the spirit intact when everything else feels fragile. Imagine a group of people gathered during a difficult season. Perhaps they sit in a small room, warmed by a single lamp. Perhaps they stand in the open air after a long day of labor or worry. Their faces show tiredness. Their shoulders carry invisible burdens. And then someone says something gently absurd. Or someone makes an unexpected observation. Or someone imitates a situation with a touch of playful exaggeration. For a moment, a spark ignites. A soft smile appears. A small laugh escapes. The heaviness does not disappear, but it shifts. It becomes more bearable. This is the essence of humor in adversity. It is not an escape from reality, but a way of holding reality without being crushed by it. Humor gives the mind a momentary vantage point from which to see difficulty with more space, more breath, and more possibility. The emotional knot loosens just enough to let the light in. Humor in hard times appears in the early human story. Ancient families gathered around fires during dangerous nights used laughter as a signal of safety. When fear had passed, laughter reassured the group that it was safe to rest again. This early role of laughter, to transform tension into relief, remains woven into the nervous system. Even today, a moment of humor after stress feels like a physical release. The body exhales. The mind resets. In difficult historical periods, humor has served not only individuals but entire communities. During wars, families often shared jokes in shelters, not because the danger disappeared, but because laughter reminded them that they were still human, still connected, still capable of feeling. Soldiers on battlefields throughout history have relied on humor to cope with fear and exhaustion. Playful nicknames, light-hearted stories, and small jokes between comrades created a buffer between the mind and the surrounding chaos. Humor found in hardship often reveals the strength of human connection. In environments where people share struggle, mines, factories, refugee camps, hospitals, storm shelters, humor acts as emotional glue. It binds people together. It transforms a group of individuals into a supportive community. Laughter becomes a way of saying, "We are still here. We are still ourselves." This reminder guards against despair. Dark humor, often misunderstood, plays a significant role in hard times. When people joke about serious things they cannot control, illness, loss, uncertainty, they are not invalidating the gravity of those experiences. Instead, they are reclaiming a small piece of agency. Dark humor creates emotional space. It lets the mind breathe around the edges of fear. It takes something overwhelming and makes it slightly smaller, slightly less consuming. It helps people process the unprocessable. Consider someone facing illness. They may make a joke about their situation not to trivialize it, but to remind themselves that their identity is larger than their suffering. They refuse to let fear dominate every corner of their mind. Humor becomes a lifeline, a thread connecting them to their own humanity, a refusal to be defined exclusively by difficulty. Communities facing oppression or hardship often use humor to preserve dignity. Satire becomes a subtle language of resistance. Jokes travel quietly through groups, challenging power without inviting danger. Humor allows people to speak truths that cannot be spoken aloud. It becomes a survival tool, a shield of wit, a whisper of defiance. Even in the darkest conditions, humor becomes a small flame that cannot be extinguished. In personal struggles, humor is equally powerful. Imagine someone grieving the loss of a loved one. In the midst of sorrow, they recall a funny memory, a moment of shared laughter, a ridiculous situation that once made both of them smile. This memory brings warmth into the grief. It softens the pain, if only for a moment. It reconnects the grieving person with love rather than absence. Humor does not erase the loss. It widens the emotional space around it, allowing the heart to breathe. In relationships facing conflict, humor can break through emotional barriers. A playful remark delivered gently at the right time can dissolve tension. It acts like a small key, unlocking a tight emotional door. It gives both people room to step back, to see the situation with less defensiveness. Humor becomes a bridge back to connection. During natural disasters or crises, humor often emerges as a communal coping mechanism. People share stories about the unexpected, the absurd, the ironic. They find humor in the cracks of circumstance, in the moments when the world's unpredictability reveals itself. This shared humor helps stabilize emotions. It grounds people in the present moment. It signals, "We will get through this together." Humor in hard times also plays a physiological role. When laughter rises during stress, the body releases tension. Muscles unclench, the heart rate adjusts, the breath deepens, the brain releases endorphins that counteract stress hormones. Even a single laugh interrupts the body's stress cycle, creating a momentary reset. In prolonged hardship, these small resets accumulate into resilience. Humor can also protect the mind from emotional overwhelm. When a situation feels too big, too frightening, too uncertain, humor offers a manageable angle. It reframes the situation. It makes it easier to think clearly. This reframing does not distort reality. It simply allows the mind to hold the truth more gently. Consider a parent comforting their child during a difficult time. The parent may use humor to soften the child's fear. A silly face, a playful voice, a humorous metaphor. The child's nervous system responds instantly. The fear decreases. The child feels safer. This instinctive use of humor reflects something deep in human caregiving. Humor is a form of emotional shelter. Even in solitary hardship, humor appears. When someone endures a difficult inner struggle, stress, anxiety, uncertainty, they may find themselves laughing unexpectedly at a small absurdity, a thought, a memory, a moment. This laugh is not a betrayal of their struggle. It is a sign of resilience, a reminder that the mind can still find brightness in the shadows. Humor becomes an internal ally. Throughout history, humor has been a powerful tool during oppressive conditions. Enslaved communities used humor to maintain dignity and identity. They created stories that offered resistance through cleverness and coded meaning. Humor preserved their humanity against the dehumanizing forces around them. It allowed them to express truth safely, to maintain hope, and to strengthen collective bonds. Prisoners of war often used humor as a way to maintain morale. Jokes, playful stories, and small comedic rituals helped them preserve their sense of self. Humor allowed them to endure psychologically. It offered invisible nourishment in places where comfort was absent. Medical professionals, exposed daily to suffering and uncertainty, often rely on gentle humor to cope. Their humor is not insensitive. It is protective. It helps them stay emotionally balanced. It keeps them capable of offering care. It creates camaraderie in environments where emotional weight is heavy. First responders use humor in similar ways. Firefighters, police officers, paramedics, those who witness distress regularly, use playful exchanges to maintain resilience. These jokes are not trivial. They are emotional anchors. They keep the mind from slipping into despair. They maintain clarity, focus, and connection. In times of political instability, humor becomes a subtle force of unity. Satirists, comedians, and everyday people use humor to speak truth to power, to reveal absurdities, and to maintain hope. Humor in these settings becomes a quiet assertion of freedom, a reminder that the human spirit remains unbroken. Families use humor to survive economic hardship. When resources are limited, when stress rises, when uncertainty looms, families often create humorous stories about their situation. They transform difficulty into narrative. This narrative becomes a source of strength, reminding everyone that life contains moments of lightness, even during struggle. Humor also preserves mental health during prolonged hardship. It prevents emotional stagnation. It keeps the mind moving, thinking, adapting. It adds elasticity to the emotional landscape, preventing it from becoming rigid. This elasticity makes recovery possible. When the hardship passes, those who maintained humor often emerge with greater resilience. Humor acknowledges the absurdity of existence. Life is unpredictable. Plans shift suddenly. Circumstances change without warning. Humor recognizes this chaos and embraces it. It says, "The world is strange, and so am I, and that is part of the beauty of being alive." This kind of humor reflects acceptance, not defeat. Imagine someone sitting alone at night after a long, difficult day. The room is quiet, the mind feels tired, and suddenly a small thought arises, something mildly absurd, something slightly amusing. The person smiles. It is brief, almost unnoticed, but it matters. It shows that the inner light has not gone out. It shows that resilience is still alive. Humor in hard times is not frivolous. It is essential. It sustains the mind when nothing else can. It reconnects people with one another. It creates space for hope. It strengthens identity. It protects dignity. It helps people endure the unendurable. And from this profound resilience, humor flows naturally into the modern world, where comedy becomes a performance, a craft, a shared experience shaped by culture, technology, and the changing rhythms of contemporary life. Modern comedy. In the vast landscape of contemporary life, comedy has become one of the most expressive, creative, and culturally significant forms of human communication. It is no longer confined to fireside gatherings, small communities, or ancient rituals. Modern comedy flows through theaters, screens, streets, radios, phones, and digital spaces. It reflects the pulse of society, the complexities of identity, the contradictions of modern living, and the evolving relationship between people and technology. To understand modern comedy is to understand how humans interpret the world today, how they cope, critique, connect, and create meaning through laughter. Imagine a bustling city at dusk. Lights flicker on in windows. People move along sidewalks with the weight of their thoughts. Cars hum beneath tall buildings. Somewhere in a small room above a busy street, a group gathers for a stand-up comedy show. The space is simple: a stage, a microphone, a few warm lights. The audience settles in. The performer steps forward. Their presence changes the atmosphere instantly. They begin to speak, not with formality, not with rehearsed perfection, but with a rhythm that invites intimacy. A pause, a gesture, a twist in tone. The room leans closer. The first wave of laughter rises. Modern comedy begins in its purest form. One human communicating directly with others, revealing personal truth through the language of humor. Stand-up comedy is one of the defining art forms of the modern era. It is raw, vulnerable, and deeply human. A single person stands before many and tells their truth, not as a lecture, not as a confession, but as a narrative shaped through timing, observation, and exaggeration. The performer uses humor to explore the contradictions of daily life, the absurdity of work, the complexity of relationships, the quirks of individuality, the pressures of society. The stage becomes a place where truth and play merge, where vulnerability becomes strength, where the audience feels seen and understood. Stand-up mirrors the inner workings of identity in the modern world. People navigate complex emotional landscapes, balancing personal expectations with societal demands. Comedy becomes a collective sigh, a way of saying, we are all trying to make sense of this together. Audiences laugh because they recognize themselves in the stories. They feel the shared complexity. They feel the relief of knowing they are not alone. Improvisational comedy, or improv, celebrates spontaneity and collaboration. In improv, performers create scenes in real time without scripts. They listen closely to one another, build on each other's ideas, and transform the unpredictable into laughter. Improv reflects the fluidity of modern life. It demonstrates how creativity emerges from trust, how connection emerges from presence, How humor thrives in uncertainty. The core principle of improv, saying yes and, embodies a philosophy of openness. It teaches the value of embracing unexpected ideas rather than resisting them. It mirrors the psychology of cognitive flexibility and emotional adaptability. Sketch comedy blends structure and play. Small comedic scenes portray exaggerated characters or absurd situations. These sketches reveal cultural patterns, how people behave, how they misunderstand one another, how society navigates contradiction. From early television sketches to modern digital skits, sketch comedy captures the absurd beauty of everyday life. It holds up a mirror to culture, showing both the humor and the truth hidden beneath its surface. Sitcoms created whole worlds where humor shaped relationships, families, workplaces, and friendships. Through laughter tracks and scripted lines, sitcoms offered comfort, escapism, and familiarity. They allowed people to see their own struggles through a softened lens, teaching lessons through comedic rhythm. Sitcoms became emotional companions, creating shared memories across generations. Satire, perhaps one of the most powerful forms of modern comedy, blends humor with critique. It exposes contradictions in politics, society, culture, and human behavior. Satire helps people understand the structures that guide their lives. It gives voice to frustrations that cannot always be expressed directly. It turns complexity into clarity. It transforms anger into insight. It helps society see itself with honesty without losing hope. Late-night comedy and political humor reflect the modern world's need for emotional processing. News can be overwhelming. Complexity can feel unmanageable. Satire breaks complexity into pieces. It arranges those pieces through humor so that the mind can digest them without collapsing under their weight. Comedy becomes emotional ventilation, a release that keeps people informed without breaking them. The digital age transformed humor completely. Social media, video platforms, and instant communication created new comedic languages. Memes, short videos, reaction clips, and playful commentary that travel across the world in seconds. Digital humor is fast, dynamic, and deeply interwoven with culture. It spreads ideas, creates shared experiences, and reinforces community bonds. A simple image with a caption becomes a global inside joke. It moves through millions of minds, connecting people through shared amusement. The meme is one of the most striking comedic inventions of the modern era. A meme is not just a joke, it is a cultural signal. It represents the collective interpretations, emotions, and contradictions of society. Memes compress complex experiences into simple, recognizable formats. They use exaggeration, absurdity, and visual cues to express truths that might otherwise be difficult to articulate. They reveal generational identity. They reflect cultural shifts. They evolve rapidly, showing how human humor adapts to technological environments. Digital humor also democratizes comedy. Anyone can create a funny post, video, or image. Comedy no longer belongs only to professional performers. It belongs to everyone who participates in the flow of digital culture. Humor becomes participatory, interactive, collaborative. People remix content, build on jokes, transform formats, and create endless variations. This fluidity mirrors the cognitive processes of humor: recognition, reinterpretation, surprise, and play. In the modern world, comedy also reflects the changing boundaries of social norms. Discussions of identity, gender, race, culture, and politics all find their way into humor. Comedians navigate these topics with sensitivity, boldness, or nuance. Some challenge old patterns, others expose contradictions. Comedy becomes a space where society negotiates its evolving values. Laughter helps release tension, making space for difficult conversations. Comedy also reveals generational differences. Older generations may prefer structured jokes, narrative humor, or observational comedy. Younger generations often embrace absurdity, surrealism, or hyper-ironic formats. Each style reflects the cultural atmosphere of its time. Younger people growing up in a fast-paced, information-heavy world often find comfort. Each reveals the unique psychological landscape of the generation that created it. Humor becomes a timestamp of culture, capturing how people perceive themselves and their society at a particular moment in history. As the pace of life accelerates, humor adapts. Modern comedy often embraces rapid shifts, layered meanings, and playful deconstructions. This is especially clear in internet humor, where jokes can operate on multiple levels at once, acknowledging a topic, critiquing it, parodying it, and celebrating it simultaneously. The modern mind, accustomed to fast information and constant change, finds resonance in humor that reflects this rhythm. Yet beneath the surface of speed and complexity, modern comedy still relies on timeless foundations: tension and release, pattern and disruption, recognition and surprise. Even in digital formats that last only a few seconds, these principles remain. A meme that twists expectations in a single image functions the same way an ancient story did, guiding the mind through anticipation and reversal. Technology changes the container. The human brain preserves the structure. Comedy today also reflects the increasing awareness of mental health. Many comedians and creators use humor to explore anxiety, depression, trauma, and emotional complexity. This is not humor that dismisses suffering. It is humor that creates shared understanding around struggles people once faced quietly. When humor touches mental health, it offers validation. It shows people they are not alone. It turns vulnerability into connection. It transforms fear into collective compassion. In online spaces, people frequently use self-aware humor to express the contradictions of modern living. For example, jokes about being overwhelmed, distracted, or emotionally conflicted have become common. These jokes often carry truth wrapped in amusement. They help people process their inner experiences. They create community around the recognition that life is both absurd and meaningful. Comedy in the workplace has also transformed. As work culture evolves, humor becomes a tool for connection and psychological safety. A well-timed moment of levity can dissolve tension, encourage creativity, and strengthen teamwork. Humor makes challenges feel less isolating. It invites collaboration. It shows that even within responsibility and pressure, there is space for humanity. In the realm of entertainment, comedic storytelling has expanded into new genres. Dramedy, stories that blend comedy with drama, reflects the modern recognition that life is not neatly divided into joy and sorrow. These stories allow humor to coexist with heaviness, reflecting emotional truth with nuance. Audiences connect deeply with characters who navigate pain with humor and humor with honesty. This genre mirrors the complexity of contemporary emotional experience. Comedy is also a tool for cultural dialogue in the modern world. Comedians often address social issues through humor, making difficult topics more accessible. This does not diminish the importance of these issues. It allows audiences to approach them without defensiveness. Humor opens emotional doors that might otherwise remain closed. It fosters understanding across differences. In conflict or political tension, comedy offers a form of resistance. Satire becomes a way to question authority, expose contradictions, and highlight injustice. It allows people to challenge power without direct confrontation. This kind of humor is not frivolous. It is courageous. It preserves freedom of expression. It offers clarity amid confusion. It empowers the marginalized. It reminds society that every human being holds dignity and voice. Modern comedy also highlights the fragility and complexity of communication in a global world. What one group finds funny, another may find puzzling or offensive. Not because either is wrong, but because humor relies on shared assumptions. In a world where cultures mix constantly, humor becomes both a bridge and a learning curve. When people understand why others laugh, they understand something fundamental about their worldview. Digital comedic trends reflect this multicultural exchange. Jokes travel across languages, borders, and contexts. People remix humor from cultures different from their own, often adding new layers of meaning. Global humor emerges from this exchange, playful, fluid, and evolving. It is a testament to the adaptability of the human mind. It shows how humor can unite people across continents with a single moment of shared recognition. Yet, for all its complexity, modern comedy often returns to simplicity. Sometimes, the funniest moments arise not from elaborate scripts, but from the quiet absurdity of everyday life. A pet's unexpected behavior, a child's spontaneous comment, a small mistake that becomes a gentle story. These moments remind people that humor is woven into the very structure of existence. It does not always need performance. It often appears naturally when the mind relaxes. In relationships, modern comedy shapes communication. Couples use humor to express affection, diffuse conflict, and navigate differences. Friends use humor to maintain connection across time and distance. Families create generational humor, passing down stories and inside jokes that shape identity. Humor becomes a shared emotional inheritance, strengthening bonds. Technology has also changed how comedians develop their craft. Performers no longer rely solely on clubs or theaters. They use online platforms to experiment, receive feedback, and grow. Comedy has become more accessible and more diverse. Voices that once struggled to find a place now create their own spaces, reaching global audiences. This democratization enriches comedy, adding perspectives that deepen collective understanding. Modern comedy is also shaped by introspection. Performers frequently explore themes of self-awareness, self-critique, and personal growth. They use humor to navigate the tension between who they are and who they aspire to be. This creates comedy that feels deeply human, rooted in honesty rather than pretense. And through all these changes, laughter remains a constant. Whether it arises from a stand-up performance, a short video, a conversation, or a digital joke, it contains the same biological, emotional, and social effects as ancient laughter. The medium evolves. The meaning endures. Imagine someone lying in bed after a long day. Their phone rests beside them. They scroll through a short video that captures an absurd moment, something small but amusing. They smile, they laugh quietly. The tension of the day softens. The mind releases a gentle sigh. This moment mirrors the laughter of ancestors who gathered around ancient fires. The context is modern. The feeling is timeless. Modern comedy reflects the ongoing evolution of humanity. It is shaped by technology, culture, identity, and collective consciousness. It reveals the joys and anxieties of contemporary life. It creates community in an increasingly complex world. And it reminds people that even amid constant change, humor remains one of the most accessible forms of resilience, understanding, and connection. From here, humor naturally flows into its next frontier, the future of laughter. A world where technology, artificial intelligence, cultural evolution, and new forms of human interaction redefine what humor is, how it's created, and how it continues to shape the mind and the heart. The future of humor. The future of humor stretches ahead like a quiet, unfolding horizon, wide, mysterious, full of possibility. As humanity moves through rapid cultural change, technological transformation, and global interconnectedness, laughter continues to evolve. Humor will remain human at its core, but the ways it emerges, spreads, and shapes the mind may shift in profound ways. To explore the future of humor is to imagine how joy, play, and the unexpected will express themselves in a world reshaped by new tools, new cultures, and new forms of consciousness. Imagine a moment in the near future. You sit in a room at night, soft light illuminating the space around you. On a device nearby, a short comedic clip plays. You laugh, not just because the joke is funny, but because it speaks to something inside you. It matches your rhythm of thought. It understands your sense of timing. It reflects something uniquely relevant to your experience. You pause and wonder, did a human create this, or did an AI craft it perfectly for you? The line between human-generated humor and machine-assisted humor begins to blur. This is one of the most intriguing questions in the future of comedy. Can artificial intelligence understand humor? Can machines create comedy that feels genuinely human? Humor is rooted in experience, emotion, vulnerability, imperfection. It arises from failure, misunderstanding, curiosity, and connection. These qualities belong fundamentally to the human condition. Yet AI has begun to learn the structures of jokes, the pacing of comedic rhythm, the geometry of surprise and misdirection. As algorithms become more sophisticated, they might produce humor that resonates on a cognitive level. But emotional humor, humor that carries warmth, identity, and humanity, may remain uniquely human. AI can imitate surprise, but can it feel surprise? It can detect patterns in comedy, but does it understand why humans laugh when they feel anxious, or tired, or relieved? It can generate clever wordplay, but can it mirror the emotional depth of a person revealing their flaws on stage? The future of humor will likely involve collaboration between human creativity and machine precision. Humans will provide emotional truth. AI will enhance reach, timing, variation, and accessibility. Together, they may create new comedic forms. In the future, comedy may become more personalized. Algorithms that understand an individual's preferences, history, mood, and cognitive patterns could generate humor that feels uniquely tailored. Imagine waking up to a short comedic story crafted just for you, drawing from your favorite styles, references, and rhythms. No two people would receive the same joke. Humor would become intimate, curated, and responsive. This personalization could help people feel less alone. It could offer emotional relief on difficult days. It could support mental health by providing lightness exactly when needed. Yet it also raises questions. What happens when humor becomes a reflection of one's internal world rather than a shared communal experience? Comedy may grow more private unless people choose to reconnect through shared humor. The challenge will be balancing personalized humor with collective laughter, the kind that binds people together. Globalization continues to merge humor styles across cultures. In the coming decades, global humor may take new hybrid forms. A single meme may integrate elements from Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Jokes may blend cultural references that once belonged to specific regions, but now belong to the global imagination. This fusion will enrich humor, but also challenge people to understand unfamiliar contexts. It will require cultural sensitivity, curiosity, and openness. The future will also deepen humor's role in emotional resilience. As technological and social pressures increase, humor may become an essential survival skill. People may turn to comedy to navigate digital overload, political uncertainty, and emotional complexity. Laughter may become a grounding mechanism in a world that moves faster than the nervous system was designed to handle. In this sense, humor will remain a biological anchor, helping people relax, bond, think clearly, and reconnect with human warmth. Comedy in virtual reality will open new creative possibilities. Imagine stepping into a comedic world where timing, perspective, and interaction shift dynamically around you. You become part of the scene. Jokes unfold in 360 degrees. Characters respond to your reactions. Entire comedic environments adapt to your emotions, creating immersive laughter that touches the senses in new ways. This form of comedy might blend storytelling, play, and performance into a single living experience. In augmented reality, humor may blend seamlessly with everyday life. Playful digital characters, subtle visual jokes, or interactive comedic filters may appear in ordinary environments, injecting lightness into the physical world. A street sign might display a personalized joke when you walk by. A mirror might offer a playful remark tailored to your mood. Humor could become an invisible companion woven into daily experience. As these technologies expand, boundaries between performer and audience may dissolve. People may participate in comedic creation as easily as they consume it. Comedy might become more improvisational, collective, and relational. The emotional distance between creator and viewer may narrow. People may co-author humor with friends, strangers, or AI companions. This collaborative comedy could mirror the ancient communal laughter that sustained early humans around fires, reimagined through technology. Humor will also play a role in the evolution of communication. As language evolves in digital spaces, comedic shorthand, memes, references, ironic symbols will become part of everyday conversation. People may rely on humor not only to entertain but to communicate emotion efficiently. Humor will become a linguistic tool as much as a playful one. In the future, humor may reflect deeper questions about identity and existence. As people confront issues like artificial intelligence, climate change, societal transformation, and the boundaries of consciousness, comedy may explore philosophical themes with greater boldness. It may help people process uncertainty in ways that feel safe. It may reveal hidden contradictions and offer pathways to acceptance. It may give humanity the emotional flexibility needed to navigate unpredictable futures. Comedy will remain a mirror of society. It will expose hypocrisies, challenge assumptions, and inspire reflection. As political and cultural landscapes shift, comedians will continue to serve as interpreters of their era, revealing truths through laughter that might otherwise be too heavy to hold. Their role will remain essential, Comedy often sees the world clearly before society is ready to confront its own contradictions. Humor will also shape intergenerational connection. Younger generations, raised in digital environments, will develop new comedic codes. Older generations may adapt or maintain their own. Laughter can bridge these differences. When people share humor across age groups, they share worldview, memory, and identity. In a world fractured by information bubbles, humor may become one of the few universal languages that reconnects people. The future of humor also explores the boundaries of consciousness itself. As neuroscience advances, humans may gain new understanding of how humor emerges in the brain, how emotional circuits, predictive systems, memory networks, and social pathways synchronize during laughter. This knowledge may inspire therapeutic humor technologies, helping restore cognitive flexibility, reduce anxiety, or support memory in aging populations. Humor could become part of medical treatment, guided by neuroscience but rooted in human warmth. Even as technology evolves, the essence of humor will remain timeless. It will still arise in moments of surprise, in the softness of shared recognition, in the small absurdities of daily life, in the gentle mismatch between expectation and reality, in the warmth of human company. The delivery may change, but the feeling will remain. Imagine a future sunset. Someone sits by a quiet window in a world shaped by technology, but still grounded in human emotion. They laugh at something, perhaps created by a friend, perhaps by an AI, perhaps by a moment of spontaneous absurdity. The laughter feels familiar, soft, warm, human. It carries the same quality as the laughter of ancestors who lived thousands of years before. The future of humor is both unknown and deeply familiar. It is the continuation of a story that began long before civilization. A story woven through evolution, neuroscience, culture, identity, and creativity. A story that adapts, expands, and bends with each era. A story that remains essential to the human experience. From this horizon of possibility, the journey of humor comes gently to rest in a final reflection on why humans laugh at all, what humor truly means, and how it continues to guide people toward connection, resilience, and inner peace. Closing reflections. Humor is one of the most gentle and profound expressions of what it means to be human. It does not ask for perfection. It does not demand certainty. It asks only for presence, for openness, for a moment of shared recognition between one breath and the next. After traveling through the long arc of humor's story, from ancient fires to modern screens, from the biology of laughter to the complexities of identity and culture, we return to something simple, something timeless, something quietly comforting. Imagine yourself in a soft, dimly lit space. Night has settled. The air feels still. The mind begins to unfurl its thoughts slowly, like petals opening in the dark. In this quiet, laughter feels far away, yet deeply familiar. Not the loud laughter of crowded rooms, but the soft inner laughter of memory, of understanding, of gentle perspective. Humor, in its deepest form, is not noise. It is warmth. Laughter began as a signal of safety, a biological whisper that danger had passed. It helped early humans relax in a world that demanded constant vigilance. That same whisper lives within you. When you laugh, your body remembers ancient patterns. Your nervous system releases tension. Your breathing deepens. For a moment, you are aligned with generations of human beings who laughed as a way of surviving, connecting, and finding hope. Humor became a language of the mind, a way of exploring patterns, experimenting with ideas, and stretching cognitive flexibility. Through jokes, through playful thought, through the gentle twist between expectation and surprise, humor keeps the mind agile. It allows you to shift perspective, to see life from multiple angles, to hold contradictions with ease. Laughter becomes a form of mental spaciousness, a reminder that thinking does not always need to be rigid. Humor also became a bond between people, a spark that moved from face to face, igniting connection, easing conflict, strengthening trust. When you laugh with someone, your rhythms synchronize, your barriers soften. You feel understood without explanation. That feeling of safety, that sense of belonging, is part of the emotional architecture of humanity. It carries the wisdom that shared joy is one of life's most healing experiences. Comedy grew into an art form, a cultural mirror, a storyteller of truth. It taught people to see themselves with honesty and compassion. Comedians across eras have helped society reflect on its habits, contradictions, and possibilities. Through humor, people learn to navigate change, to find balance in confusion, to recognize the beauty in imperfection. Humor even followed people into hardship. It appeared in dark times not as triviality, but as resilience. It softened grief, lightened fear, and offered breath to those struggling to continue. Laughter in difficulty is not foolish, it is brave. It holds the truth while still allowing space for the heart to survive. In the modern world, humor continues to evolve. It flows through digital landscapes, connecting people across continents. It adapts to new languages, new technologies, new expressions of identity. Yet beneath all these changes, its essence remains constant. Humor still offers relief, connection, clarity, and joy. It still helps the mind make sense of complexity. It still brings humans closer to themselves and one another. And as the future unfolds, with artificial intelligence, new forms of communication, and global cultural exchange, humor will remain one of the most human things there is. Machines may learn patterns, but they cannot feel the warmth behind a laugh, the release after a long day, the way humor echoes inside the chest like a soft memory. Humor belongs to consciousness, to emotion, to the delicate balance between vulnerability and strength. As this long exploration comes gently to an end, imagine yourself surrounded by a quiet calm. The world feels softer now. The edges of thought begin to blur. The stories of laughter you have journeyed through settle into a warm place inside you. You feel connected, not only to the present moment, but to the countless generations who laughed before you and the countless who will laugh after. You understand now that humor is more than entertainment. It is a thread woven through the fabric of existence, a guide through confusion, a comfort through hardship, a spark of creativity, a mirror of truth, a celebration of being alive. As you rest here at the end of this journey, let your breath slow, let your muscles relax, let your mind drift. Allow the warmth of humor, the gentle release, the soft joy, the quiet recognition to settle into your body like a slow, deep exhale. Let it remind you that life, with all its complexities, carries moments of lightness waiting to be found. And as you move toward rest, remember this. You carry the capacity for laughter within you. You carry the wisdom of humor in your mind. You carry the warmth of connection in your heart. And these gifts, simple and profound, will follow you through every season of life. Let the day fall away now. Let your thoughts grow soft. Let yourself drift gently into sleep, guided by the quiet knowledge that humor, ancient, human, and endlessly renewing, remains one of the most comforting companions on the long journey of being alive.